Welcome to Frak. We are going to be talking about Star Wars Celebration. We're going to be talking about Star Wars Mando. We're going to be talking about Star Trek Picard. Talking about all that good fun stuff. I am B-Comp. Everyone either knows me or don't know me. I hope you do. If not, well, hi. Nice to meet you. If you do know me, good to see you again. Joining me always is Steven. And how are you again?
Doing great.
Great. And behind the camera, helping us out, as always, is our boy, Peter. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great.
Oh, you do love a Star Wars, don't we? Well, with all that, let's just get into this. There's a lot that broke out. Steven, you actually woke me up this morning with a text.
I sent you a 7 a.m. text.
Now, when I say woke me up, I was awake. I was literally giving my kids cereal, and I get a text, and all it says is on my watch, also, Rey is getting her own movie. And I'm like, what the fuck is going on right now? It woke me up because I was like, I hadn't had coffee yet, but that was the coffee jolt I needed.
Yeah.
What was going on?
I woke up. I did, that terrible thing you shouldn't do. Immediately checked Twitter. Was like seeing some chatter and was like, let me go check the source. Check the StarWars.com and was like, oh,
quite a bit.
Here's some articles.
Why is Thrawn trending?
Yeah. Or as we'll find out later, Aaron texting me later, why I was wondering why Ben Solo was trending.
That's hilarious. Yeah, so, I get a text from Steven that says basically Rey's got her own film. I'm like, okay, let's get into this. So let's just start from the top.
Let's start from the
Bunch
top.
of films were announced. Number one.
First three in a while.
Yeah, I mean, I do want to talk a little bit about Lucasfilm and by extension Disney's kind of predilection to like announce films prematurely and then just pull the plug on that.
Yeah.
We'll get into that in a second, but for now, let's just assume everything is hunky-dory. These are going to happen. We're going to see them hit the big screen. What's the first film that was announced?
Directed by James Mangold, A Dawn of the Jedi, the beginnings of the Jedi Order, so tens of thousands of years ago.
The older Republic.
The old Republic.
Well, not even Republic. They were all sticks and lightsaber sticks.
Which it could tie into in season 2 of The Mandalorian. The beacon they used to attract Luke Skywalker is on the planet Tython, which in the Old Republic game is the home planet of the Jedi. Which, whether they keep that the same or whether they just, take parts of it as they do and leave other parts behind, we'll see.
Interestingly enough, so you mentioned James Mangold. Obviously, he's probably most known. I mean, I believe he did Pride and Prejudice or he did one of those films, but he's probably most known for Logan, the sort of adaptation, kind of quote unquote, of Old Man Logan, the comic book. Obviously, Logan was kind of.
He did the second Wolverine film.
He
as well,
did the Wolverine,
which was good.
It was fine.
Yeah,
but Logan was really good.
Yeah.
Ironically enough, had our boy Patrick Stewart in there, which we'll talk about a little bit later.
Yes.
But it was a nice send off for Hugh Jackman. Obviously, Hugh Jackman has decided to come back to the Marvel Universe. But it was one of those films where like, oh, this is really good, and it kind of gave him credibility. Not say credibility, but it gave him like, oh, what other things you got in your pocket? And he was given an indie film, obviously. Yeah. And we will talk about the indie film later because they also dropped a trailer for that. But to give him a Star Wars.
Indiana film, not
India with a Y,
not an independent.
We got an indie film out of it. It's like, yeah, I think he would a blockbuster.
Just to be clear,
yeah, that's a good point. He was most known. Probably, I would say he was most known for like Logan, and then obviously he's got Indiana Jones 5 dropping. Was that in June or something like that?
May or June.
Yeah. They've got to be feeling really good about that movie to give him a Star Wars pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Which I want to talk about that indie film and like what this all means, but we'll get into that later. But how do you feel about him kind of going back to the beginnings of the Jedi and seeing that kind of the origins, as it were?
I think. Well, I mean, as we get into it later, I think this is the movie I'm second most excited for.
Okay.
I always find that stuff interesting. I'm always like a lore person. I would read, the synopses of because I couldn't afford all of the comics of like the really old Dark Horse like Sith Empire ones and stuff like that. I played the Old Republic for a bit, which again is thousands of years later, but still enjoyable.
Did you do the MMO on that one, or did you just do the RPG?
I did a bit of both.
I did both too.
Yeah,
I did one, but I never did two. I never did KOTOR 2.
I didn't do KOTOR 2, but I did have the super expensive version of
KOTOR 1?
The MMO.
Yeah. What did you roll?
I like to. Here's the thing with MMOs or just RPGs in general,
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of like the starting stuff.
Oh.
I'm real bad at endgame stuff. So I had one of each just starting out, get to, once things start really clicking.
Progressing,
And then, I also got sidetracked because I moved and had really terrible internet for a while. So I was like, there's no point in playing it.
Yeah, there's no point.
So that was what stopped me. But I think I definitely had a character of each, how much time I poured into it beyond the intro, who knows?
When it came out, I think it was in the days of the old G4, and I remember the attack team we had like a little party that we used to kind of team up and play and stuff like that.
Came out 2013, I want to say.
No, I want to say 2011. I want to say 2011 or 2012. Okay. If I'm, I could be mistaken about that, but I kind of fell off after
the beta came out before I moved to LA.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, that was 2010, 2011 for the beta, because I remember the beta a lot because I signed up for that. So,
we're going back to the origins of the Jedi with this, and now and we've been seeing a little bit of the not Knights of the Old Republic, but obviously they're sort of the golden age of the Republic right now.
The High Republic.
The High Republic. We're seeing that in comics and books. I'm gonna be honest, like I've read the comics, I haven't read any of the books. I wouldn't say I'm really blown away by it. It's fine.
I've read some of the books. It's interesting that they're dividing it into phases.
Yeah.
And I believe they just ended phase 2.
Yeah.
And they're starting phase 3 at the end of the year, and that'll tie it all together.
Yeah, they reset in all the comic books. They're doing like all new number ones and stuff like that. It's fine.
It's fine.
It's fine. It's really hard when it's like, oh, this is the golden age. And like, there's like no enemy. I'm like, well, then what's the point? Where's the conflict?
I think the things that worked for me was sort of, there's an implication throughout that this is a golden age because the Empire just went through a dark age. Not the Empire, the Republic just went through a sort of dark age where maybe something happened in hyperspace and they were unable to explore for a while, and now they're actually exploring
building the
again.
And all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
So I thought that was an interesting thing of like, everyone's so focused on talking about how good things are that the implication is that things were very recently not good.
Not so good.
But I'm sure if I went deeper into it, I would discover more about it.
I generally speaking am not inclined to enjoy prequels or anything that's
it's a little rough.
It's hard. Yeah. I will say, this is off topic, but what kind of surprised me was the most recent Game of Thrones show. I actually found that like kind of reinvigorate, even knowing like the end game and all that. And I think they're doing like in that show a little bit what Star Wars is trying to do right now with Rise of Skywalker is like, hey, we biffed the landing on that. Let's sort of retcon it a little bit and make sense with, obviously we're seeing it with Mando. And I think we see a little bit of that with the Game of Thrones show. Like I said, my natural inclination is to be like, I don't want to see a prequel. We've seen it. We know what's going to happen. But if you are going so far into the past that you don't know who these characters are, I'm kind of cool with it. It's like the way again, going back to the Game of Thrones analog, they were talking about originally doing like the first long night or whatever it was. And I'm like, oh, you know what? The birth of like, where the ice zombies essentially came from. And I'm like, I'm kind of cool to see that. And if they're doing something similar, like, oh, we're seeing the birth of the Jedi, the birth of the Sith, it's like, oh, okay, you know what? Yeah, obviously the actions will have repercussions ostensibly down the road, but
tens
it's like
of thousands of years later.
Yeah, but it's like, you know what? I don't know who these characters are, and I can at least get invested in them. It's hard for me to get invested in a Han Solo prequel when I'm like, I know where Solo ends.
No,
falling off a bridge with a lightsaber through his gut.
I agree, and I think what like something I'm going to keep an eye on during it is just again, I find it interesting what they bring from the old canon and what they leave behind, not because I'm particularly attached to any of it. I just like seeing what they think works and what they think doesn't work. And so like I'm very interested in seeing like, are they going to have those weird lightsabers with the battery packs and the cords?
That would be dope. That was like the old drawings from Ralph McQuarrie.
That and those were in like the old comic books as well for a while, and so like that's interesting. Like a lot of the dark side stuff from around that era in previous stuff was more sorcery stuff, which you do see in modern Star Wars. So it's interesting. Are they going to bring Sith sorcery into it?
A lot of the stuff they do in the modern comics too is like, there's because like obviously you have like the what the hell are they called? I'm blanking right now, but they're not Sith, but they're the Jedi killers. What are they called? They're not enforcers.
Whoa, my brain.
I know, my brain just turned off.
The Inquisitors.
Thank you, Inquisitors. Ooh,
I was able to say
for
like
a Star Wars show, we're nailing this, guys. Just so you know. And by the way, if anybody has any questions, please feel free to drop them in there. Or if you have any thoughts about this Mangold prequel, please let us know. What I was going to say though. I actually forgot what I was going to say now because we just lost on the Inquisitors.
I guess, yeah, our brains just stopped at the same time.
I guess we'll just move on from there. I don't know. I will say we'll see how it all works, but yeah, I don't know. Oh, it was something about the comics. Oh yeah, we're seeing a lot of that Sith stuff in the comics where like it's like people trying to replicate the abilities of the Sith without being Sith actually are Force sensitive. Like they use technology to pretend to be Sith.
Okay.
I think Dr. Aphra deals with a lot of that kind of stuff that's called the spark or whatever.
That makes sense.
It's funny because like when Lucas introduced the idea there can only be two, I never liked that idea.
Yeah.
I never liked that idea that there's 1,000 Jedi and then there's just two bad guys.
I mean, their track record.
To be fair, you're absolutely
Their
right.
track record, they did better.
They did better. I guess you focus solid in that, like the pincer movement, go for it.
I kind of like it, and I kind of don't like it.
Yeah.
What I don't like is the actual books explaining Darth Bane.
Yeah.
I read them when I was in the hospital, so granted, I was in a bad state of mind to read books.
Yeah.
And I didn't enjoy the books as much. Might have been because I was just in physical pain.
Could be. Also, to be fair, most Star Wars books don't have the best track record. I mean, I'm not trying to be an a-hole.
I do like the concept.
Some are good.
Yeah. Some are good.
I mean, but it's like the comics. Like some of the comics right now, like they are excellent, and a lot of them are not excellent. And I don't mean that to trash the writer or the artist team or anything like that. It's just when they came out swinging with Jason Aaron and John Cassidy doing like the first arc, it's like, oh, this is phenomenal.
Yeah.
And then afterwards, it's like, oh, they have too many books out there, and it's just like diminishing returns. Like it's really hard, especially like when like you said, the Kanan comic, they kind of gave the origins of Kanan Jarrus. It's like, oh, well, that's not canon now. It's like, well, wait a minute, now you're just saying that none of this matters. Oh, it's back to the old EU again. Yeah.
But you talking before this triggered a thought that going through this season of the Bad Batch, there's the episode where they find a really ancient artifact that is about some sort of power that maybe predates the Jedi.
Yeah.
So maybe that's like a way miles down the road laying a hint for that.
Well, let's talk about that. And so the next film on the slate, correct me if I'm wrong, David Filoni, who's sort of like the Lucas, heir apparent, as it were.
Picked by Lucas himself.
With his cowboy hats and everything like that.
His cowboy hats.
Filoni is going to be directing a sort of mashup movie. That was the second film that was announced.
Yeah.
It's going to tie in Ahsoka and Boba Fett, Mando, and some of the other streaming services all into kind of one.
According to
Star Wars.
the StarWars.com, quote, close out the interconnected stories. So it'll be the end of those series.
But that's the thing but Favreau has said he just wants to keep Mando going.
Well, yeah, you get.
Because it's a petty paycheck.
Yeah, I would love it too if I was working on it.
That's true. It's weird that they're already have the end.
Or maybe just close out this chapter of stories, and they can start new.
So here's the question: does that mean that goes to theaters, or does it land on Disney Plus? If that's the case.
Oh, very interesting.
Because do they have enough faith on Filoni to spearhead a giant blockbuster film like that?
Interesting. That would be an interesting experiment of is your popularity on TV, does that translate to people
go and pay money,
understanding the stories, or is everyone going to be confused?
Well, and that's the thing. It's I mean, honestly, it didn't seem to matter with Doctor Strange. Doctor Strange 2, literally tied into the end of WandaVision, and no one seemed to notice and or care.
That's true. Yeah, it'll be interesting.
I don't know. We'll see. I mean, I think I'm
sure they're very aware of that problem, though.
I think, though, if they lean heavily enough on Mando and Grogu as the sort of, as the quote-unquote lead, I think they can get away with a lot, I mean, I'm fine with it. It's funny. I texted a friend about it, and they were like, "Yeah, I'll pass." I was like, "Whoa, well, there we go."
That was a quick pass.
It was a hard pass.
This is the one of the three I'm least excited for.
Yeah, it's because it's like, why can't they just finish out those storylines in where they're at? It's like it'd be like writing a storyline in the comic book, and we're gonna finish it out in the TV show. It's like, or vice versa. It's like, well,
I mean, that is kind of James Gunn's big swing with his announcement for DC, is that all of everything's going to be interconnected.
Yeah, the video games, the TV shows
tie into each other as well.
I mean, he's going bigger than Marvel is in that regard.
Yeah, so everyone's making a similar swing, and whether it works, we'll see.
To be fair, I don't know. Like the Boba Fett show, I don't know. like critically, I have to be like kind of like nah, and then other times like I don't care. It's like I get where a lot of people have frustrations.
I'm gonna keep watching.
Yeah, and that's the thing where I'm like, again, do I want this world with it or without it?
Yeah.
I'd rather just have it. It's like, I will say though, it definitely took away from the mystique of Boba Fett. Not that his mystique was all that great, to be honest.
Everything Boba Fett has actually done takes away.
Yeah.
In every movie, from every...
The coolest thing he did is he tracked Han Solo through a garbage
That
field.
is the coolest thing he's done.
Which was
and everything else has been a biff.
I will say, I do love it though. In Return of the Jedi, when Bosch or Leia comes in with a thermal detonator, and after like he negotiates, or she negotiates rather, with Jabba, just the slight nod from Boba Fett, I was like, just respect.
Yeah.
I was like, I always loved that as a kid. It was like, okay, that's cool.
That says a lot of character right there in a fun way.
It did. It literally spoke volumes and.
Without a word.
Without saying a damn thing. I always got mad that the I mean, I like, was it Tamura Morrison or whatever his name is? But I was really mad that they replaced his voice in Empire and Jedi.
I honestly, like, I can't even remember what it sounded like.
He's no good to me, Dad. I can't even do it.
That sounds like Tamura to me.
I know. I think I'm unfortunate.
I've got the unremastered DVDs that they sold at Costco a while ago,
those,
but
yeah, are they pan and scan or
no, they're just so tiny because they're not. So maybe I'll pop that in.
They're rips of the laser discs.
Yeah,
they're rips of the laser discs. That's why.
So I'll have to go back and look to see what it sounded like.
Blade Zero mentions I can't wait for Ahsoka. I heard Rey is coming back too. I'm excited about that. We're actually going to talk about that right now. But before we do, I will say, why won't Lucasfilm just release the original theatrical cuts? Just, you can say these aren't canon.
I guarantee you there's a clause in the deal they signed where Lucas is like, no.
Did you know, supposedly, I read somewhere, and you can, please correct me if I'm wrong, but Lucas, like, he sold Star Wars for $4 billion.
Yeah.
He's made $10 billion on it since.
Wow.
And he gave that money to charity, the first $4 billion to charity.
Yeah.
What a savvy businessman that gentleman is. All right, so I did say we were going to talk about Rey. The next announcement, I want you to kind of spearhead this one.
All right. So, I mean, cat's out of the bag.
Cat's out of the bag.
We're getting our, and I'm going to say it the boring way first, we're going to get our first film after the events of the Skywalker saga, which means Rey Skywalker is coming back.
Yes. So does that take away from, like, is the Skywalker trilogy closed out? But is that now a new Skywalker trilogy?
I honestly, it'll help wash some bad taste out of my mouth, so I'm fine with it. I'm going to not look at it logically. I'm just going to look at it and say, like,
look at it as a fan. Look at it as a fan. Like a fan. You're a fan.
I get to ignore a chapter I didn't really enjoy too much, and get to see a coda to it.
So for those of you who don't know, it's going to be about Rey. It takes place 15 years after the events of Rise of Skywalker. She's a Jedi Master now, and she is now leading New Order of Jedi. She's starting a new Jedi.
Which is cool.
All about that.
Yeah.
And, like, good for Daisy Ridley because she got shit on in that last movie. Finn got shit on in that last movie. Fucking Oscar Isaac got shit on in that last movie. Everybody got shit on in that last movie.
Well, we're not just talking about by the fans.
No, I'm everybody. I mean, like, the thing is, I get it. Like, The Last Jedi divided everybody. Either you really loved it or you really hated it. Okay?
I'm not afraid to say I really enjoyed The Last Jedi.
Yeah, I know, and I get why people don't like it. I also get why people really like it. I personally love it more than I hate it. You know what I mean? Like, there's parts of it I'm like, I didn't like that part, but I get why they did it.
Yeah.
For me, that climax of the spaceship, with Holdo, the fight between Rey and Ben,
burning the curtains,
all that, like, to me, that was like, honestly, like, I remember watching the press screening for that, and I think it was sitting next to Joan. It was me and Joan, and
for The Last Jedi.
And I remember, like, because I try whenever I see a press screening to try and, like, go in. I've always maintained this, like, I can't go in as a fan. I have to go in as, like, because I have to take
for sure,
because there's too many. I've said this before and I'll say it again. I hate when I go to a press screening and there's, like, guys, like, I remember we saw Doctor Strange, people wearing Doctor Strange shirts and, like,
like what we're doing right now.
Yeah, well, this is different. So this is a fan experience. I don't give a shit. But when I'm going like
No, I get what you're saying.
yeah, like I'm going as like a professional, you know, and I'm going to like review a film or whatever. Like I hate when I see like fellow journalists, quote unquote, like applauding and clapping and losing their shit because the fucking Marvel logo came up. Like, fuck you. Like, we should be professional. We should not be going in with a bias. We should be going this like.
I think if events in the movie elicit a reaction, that's great.
Fine, sure.
Yeah.
I still try to be like clear-headed about it, like take down notes, and all that. It drives me fucking crazy. It really does. That said, when fucking Holo hits the warp speed and fucking, you know, just obliterates the fleet, I literally like tears came down.
It's very.
It was emotional.
I think that might end up being the most iconic image of the new trilogy. I think you'd be hard pressed to find someone who thinks otherwise.
I don't disagree. Like, but I still think that people's haterade towards it.
Yeah.
Again, I get it. Like Luke got done dirty, I guess. You know, all that kind of stuff. I enjoyed it. I really did. I thought it was fun. Rise of Skywalker, unfortunately, I remember all of us walked out.
We were in a.
We were at the Groundmans.
Screening.
We were at the Groundmans. I think we were at the Groundmans.
No, we were at the El Cap because it's owned by.
Yeah, that's right.
I
remember you, me, Kate, and a few other Nerdist alum walk out, and we just like looked at each other and we're like, "Was that a bad movie?"
We sort of didn't.
I know we were just like, I gotta look at everybody. I was like, I don't want to be like the only asshole here.
Yeah, we all didn't want to be the only one crapping on the parade.
I was like, and I was just like, I didn't like that.
It was. We all sat down. Obviously, a lot of anticipation, and just
we didn't walk out of the movie Napoleon. We just when we were done with the movie, we walked out together, and we were just like, what just happened?
Yeah,
because
we were all sitting in a row too. We were all sitting. Oh, that was a fun one. That was a fun.
I remember. I think we texted one of our producers, our former producer, Aaron. Like, she's like, how was it? And we're just like,
we don't want to. We told her something like we don't want to like color your experience or something. Exactly. We were like, we're not going to tell you what we think.
Yeah, and again, I try not to be like an asshole. Fuck this movie. It sucked. It's just like all of the character buildup, all of the stuff that had been built up in the previous film and films, arguably, had just been thrown out the window.
Yeah,
all of it had been thrown out the window, and I get why.
It was an impossible situation, which sucks, but whatever. It still whiffed.
It whiffed. I mean, like my criticism and my choice creatively would have been. I know that they wanted to give Carrie Fisher her out, but I hate to say it, but I think I would have just written her out in the opening crawl, and I would have modified them because even based on the story beats. For who was the guy who was originally supposed to do it? What's his name? Colin Trevorrow.
Yeah.
Based on the story beats from that, well, I've heard the script was dog shit. Like,
I read the script.
Yeah, you did, right?
It's fine.
At least the beats made sense, and it kind of encapsulated everything.
Yeah,
right?
It's one of those things where I read the script, it was fine, or the supposed script, because no one has confirmed
or denied it.
The supposed script. It was like a big old assault on Coruscant, which like. I think there's a lot of bias where people think it sounded good because it was different than what they got. And whether that would have been accomplished in a way that people enjoyed, who knows?
I mean, all I know is I watched 15 minutes of the last Jurassic Park film and turned it off. It's the only Jurassic Park film I've never finished, and B, that I've never seen in the theater.
I haven't finished any of the new trilogy. I've started them all. Or no, I didn't start the third one because I started the first two and didn't finish them. So I'm like, what's the point?
Let's see. Here we go. My friends laughed throughout Rise of Skywalker. 2 people dying in a packed theater. LOL. At least Johnson tried to be original. I agree with that.
And here's the thing. I like The Force Awakens too. Like, I know people dislike both of them.
It's a nostalgia drive. I mean,
I enjoy it.
It's like,
it's not. I wasn't going into it like wanting to hate it.
No, it was a New Hope 2.0.
Yeah. It
was a New Hope 2.0. It was like, and was fine with that. Like, I hate to say, but like, my wife was with me, and she doesn't like going to Star Wars with me because I'll scoff a lot in the movie.
Yeah.
I'm like, rolling my eyes, all that.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, but I'm like, I remember when like Han Solo walks out I'm like, oh, he's dead. I'm like, wife's like, what? I'm like, he's gonna die right now. I'm telling you.
Yeah.
And like, oh, she's like, what? You ruined that for me. I'm like, sorry. But I just remember, he's gonna die. He's dead.
There's no railings there. This is not good.
This is not good. Those paths are never good. So we've just spent the last like 10-15 minutes shitting on Rise of Skywalker and everything that's happened. I I can shit on the movie and still like the actors and still like the characters and still like all that.
Yeah.
I do feel
I'm still excited to see these characters.
Well, that's the thing. Is like I feel like this will take a lot of that sting out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
This is a chance to correct.
This is the one I'm most excited for.
Yeah, I would say I think Rey got done dirty.
Yeah.
I think Finn, and like I said, Finn and Poe did as well. But Rey arguably was the main character of all this, and she just got, oh, you're nobody. No, you're actually you're the Emperor's kid. I'm like, wait, what?
Yeah.
I think this is a good chance to redeem, and like honestly, not just her character, but also Daisy Ridley itself, because she, you know, she's doing the best.
Have a fun time.
She did not have a fun time.
Yeah.
In fact, I think it was during Last Jedi, I if I recall, she was like, yeah, I'm done after this. Maybe I'll come back in 40 years. And then, you know, that was that. And then she just got, you know, got blasted and busted. But I think she's had that thing where a lot of actors like, oh, this character has really kind of screwed me over. But then they kind of see like it's inspired a lot of people. Spock, for example, Leonard Nimoy. Like, you know, Nimoy was like, I'm done with this character. And then kind of realized, and say with even Patrick Stewart as Picard, he's been like, I'm done with this character. And then realized like there's a lot of people who like love this character and it means so much to them and is an inspiration. And yes, I've taken a lot of shit as an actor from fucking angry fanboys or fangirls. Like, let's not be biased. You know, there's some fangirls out there, I'm sure, that are angry.
For Star Trek, yeah.
I'm sure. Or in Star Wars.
Yeah. You
know, and I think this is a chance for them to redeem her character and her a little bit like what they just did with, what's his name? Ahmed Best.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Know, give them a chance to redeem themselves because, like, it's not the actor's fault.
Yeah.
The actor's just reading the lines. They're doing the best they can with what they have. You know what I mean? You know, as long as they're trying, like, you can't. And same with, like, Hayden. Like, I'm not a big Hayden fan, but, you know, damn if he didn't try his best.
And they did a good job of, I think, really, really giving us a good glimpse of him in the Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Yes,
well.
I think. Yeah. And it makes me want, again, it made me. Even though I wasn't a fan of the Obi-Wan show. I mean, there's parts of it I liked, some of it I didn't, some of it I didn't. It made me want, like, give him a season 2. You know what I mean? Like, let Obi-Wan go on a second adventure.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I wish that maybe, like, they had saved the Leia aspect for, like, the second one, but it made sense. But anyway. So, yeah, I think we're all on board. But, of course, that wasn't the only thing that came out of Celebration. And we are going to talk Star Trek as well, trust me. But let's talk a little bit about some of the stuff that dropped, specifically a certain trailer for a certain character. Do you want to watch the trailer? Yeah, how about you all in chat? Do you guys want to watch some Ahsoka trailer reactions?
Watch some Ahsoka trailer.
Well, let's get our headphones on right here. Get your
follow along at home.
Yeah, follow along at home. Sorry about that, Peter. All right, yes, let's do some Ahsoka. But while we're waiting for that to load up, I want to read a few comments. That's why I want to ignore the sequel trilogy and pretend it never happened. Fair. But this will have a chance to redeem it, I think. I think Boyega is going to be involved, too. I've seen a few articles in the last month or so that he... Great, I'm glad. I hope that he has made peace, because I know he also got done dirty.
He also was upset with that.
Yeah, he was. I mean, look at... to be fair, you know, Oscar Isaac, he's got a Marvel. He's got a Spider-Man coming up. He's doing okay.
Yeah.
I do like Poe. I wish they could do more Poe, but, you know, he did okay. She did a small bit in The Bubble with Pedro Pascal, which got really weird. Well, I don't know what that is. It's on Netflix.
I saw a clip of that, and yeah, let me say, I want to keep it PG, but it made me interested in watching the movie.
Okay, then. All right.
It's a little maybe too spicy for Star Wars. Star Wars keeps it pretty PG. It's maybe a little too spicy.
Okay. Well, we know that Palpatine fucks. You know, so.
Well. Yeah, there's seemingly.
I still want to know who did Palps get down with?
I absolutely do not want to.
Well, that's what I'm saying. What woman made that choice? The finale of Revenge of the Sith was Savage Hayden, 100%. I loved him in that. Let's see. So, okay, everyone's ready for Ahsoka. You ready, Peter? Let's do this. Here we go. Let's watch some Ahsoka. Okay.
Something's coming.
We're off by.
Something dark. I sense it.
This is a new beginning. For some, war. For others, power.
It's been a while.
That's why I didn't put it in there.
Things have changed. whispers about Thrawn's return as heir to the Empire.
Can we pause on that real quick? Heir to the Empire. I love it.
It was the Leo pointing me when that happened. Yeah, that was me when that happened.
I had subtitles on and it just I look up and it's as she's saying, I just see I'm like
It was beautiful.
keep playing. Sorry.
You have to prepare for the worst. The Jedi fell a long time ago. There aren't many left.
Perhaps it is time to begin again.
First reactions. Thoughts? Yes, no, maybe so.
Oh man, that like I'll be honest, like
This is
it's a good trailer.
I would say this is a love letter to Rebels
It's a
fans.
little tingly.
Yeah.
It gave me in my scalp.
Okay.
Watching it, in my scalp. Don't worry.
You can be anywhere. I don't care. Tingle in your butt. It doesn't matter.
Whoa.
I am not like the big Rebels guy. Like I'm like it's fine with it. I think for Rebels fans, this is their dream come true.
Yeah. It really visually, I think, shared a lot with Rebels in how it looked, and I don't know how to quite. I don't know how to really explain that, but like visually watching it, it felt like, oh yeah, someone took a Rebels episode and made it live action. I don't know what that means. Just something about the visuals just really feels very similar in a way that the other series don't, because that's not what they're trying to do. They're trying to, look like their own thing.
So one thing I did notice was the lightsabers that I'm going to say, I don't want to say Sith.
Darksiders.
Darksider. Thank you. That's probably the better. Yeah.
So we saw 3 sets of lightsabers.
Yeah, we saw a dual lightsaber.
Yeah.
We saw a regular lightsaber with Beardo.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people are
the young person who's also piloting a ship had a lightsaber.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, the way red lightsabers work, so the pure crimson, like it's because they've corrupted the kyber crystal, which are sentient apparently.
Yes.
Okay. So sentient crystals have been corrupted, and that's why they have that bright red glow. We are not seeing the bright red glow here.
They're an orange.
Yeah, orange. It's orange.
It is a weird. And is that a visual choice or is that something new? Because they're not Sith?
I think it's something new.
I don't know.
Because remember, at this point, the Sith are all dead with the exception of Palps over on what the hell on Exegol. Exegol with the
Sith
with the
Sith
Sith fanboys.
Unlimited.
Yeah. Which again, I love that I had to read like a book to figure that out. I'm like, that should have been in the movie, but yeah. So to me, it doesn't say Sith. It does say, obviously, like you just said, some kind of Darksider thing.
Oh, Greg, to clarify, it is still canon because that is something I believe Disney introduced. In the old canon, the red lightsabers were from artificially created, like lab-grown kyber crystals. And this one, they introduced this idea so that Ahsoka's white blades are 2 corrupted crystals that she had found that she uncorrupted.
Yeah.
So that's why she has the white blade versus the red blade.
Yeah. So I'm curious because also was it Ben's or rather
Kylo Ren's.
His lightsaber is all like wonky
because he messed up while trying to corrupt it. I believe was the story, which is cool.
Yeah, that's cool.
Cool concept.
I like that idea. I like that idea.
It took me a while to like it. I really didn't like it at first. I actually really liked the idea of like
a sentient crystal.
No, I did not like that at first. I really liked we're just using artificial crystals because the Jedi control the planets that have the real thing.
Yeah,
I was like, that's a
makes
cool
sense.
thing. That's why they all look the same, you know.
There's some people are speculating that Beardo is some version of Count Dooku. I want to put the nix on that personally. I think that's not a good idea. I don't think that's logical. It's the same people I feel that because Andy Serkis was in Andor, that somehow that's Snoke, in the long run.
Yeah, just a poor guy that couldn't swim just becoming Snoke.
Become Snoke, sure. Any thoughts on who these people are? Do you think they're just like Darksiders, basically? Because they're definitely rocking some,
I'm very interested. I think the things that stood out to me the most were there's the brief shot where Ahsoka is facing off against Beardo, and
that's his name, Darth Beardo, by the way.
Yeah, that's
or Kylo Beardo.
Until we know what his name is, he's going to be Beardo.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
Beardo sounds like a Star Wars name.
To be fair, they're not really. I mean, like Axe Woves and Darth
Axe Woves is a cool name.
I thought it was Axe Wolves. I'm like, what? Oh, Woves. Oh, yeah. All right, sure.
But
I mean, there's literally a character in Mando who's got tentacles called Shoggoth.
Yeah, I laughed.
Star Wars isn't really known for
subtlety.
We'll talk about that in a second, but yeah.
Yeah.
Keep going. Sorry.
But the thing that really stood out to me is the one shot in the trailer where Ahsoka is facing off with him. Mm-hmm. It looked like two things. It looked kind of a little bit like the world between worlds that was introduced in Rebels.
Yep.
You see stars, you see lines above them, you see lines on the floor.
Yeah.
Also, in the symbol for the series itself, there's all
those
like
the kind of celestial kind of paths.
That. And the other thing that stood out to me is it reminded me of, and again, it was a later expansion for the Old Republic after I played it, the one empire that shows up there as well. Mm-hmm. And the emperor of that empire, he's very regal. Basically, he looks like a buff dude with a beard is the biggest thing. But
I love it.
Just seeing the Starfield reminded me of both of those things. And
that's kind of where they pseudo-introduced time travel, if I'm correct.
The world between worlds?
Yeah.
Yes.
Just pointing that out.
Interesting.
Good
point.
I never liked that idea. When I heard that
I'm not a huge fan of that.
I'm like, no, leave that to Star Trek. Leave that to, I don't need multiverses in the Star Wars universe.
No, I also don't need.
I don't. You enter that, you open that bag of worms, and it becomes just a house of cards that just falls over. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It'll be interesting. I don't think they're going to go for traditional Sith, obviously, because we've got the whole build up to the Sith Eternal being on Exegol. Yeah. I finally remembered the name of the Sith Eternal. They're not going to do that. Whether there's something new or a fragment of something we've seen or something taken from old canon that is they're deciding to recanonize, I honestly at this point don't have enough info.
Yeah, we don't have anything.
I'm very interested.
I mean, I will say it is smart that on Disney Plus they immediately have rolled out like the Ahsoka Tano timeline, or there's like, here, you want to know everything about Mandalore? Mm-hmm. Like here all the Mandalorian and Rebels episodes or Clone Wars episodes in a row. You can just watch them canonically. Exactly. I'm like real smart on Disney Plus's part. And like I said, we mentioned briefly, Heir to the Empire.
Great.
Nice little reference there.
Nice little reference. I think I will have to. I've been talking big this season about The Mandalorian, saying we'll definitely see Thrawn at the end of it. I think the fact that in a trailer we only see the back of his head, I think I spoke a little too much. Maybe I have to walk back my hubris.
I don't know. It's funny, like when we started watching.
Maybe they just don't want to give away the casting.
I don't think they want to give away the casting just yet. I will say, like when I first saw him, I was talking
big, and I saw that part of the trailer, and I was like, maybe I've been talking too big this season.
I don't know. It makes me think that I think they wanted to save that for her trailer, and then in 2 weeks we'll see. Because usually the first and the last two episodes of Mando are really where like things ramp up in terms of plot. Everything else usually are kind of tie in and all that, but usually we've seen, at least in the last two seasons, the last two episodes really tie into plot.
Yeah, they're just plot heavy. Wildcard brings up since they specifically name drop Heir to the Empire in the trailer, he's all in on Beardo being and forgive me for pronouncing the name wrong, Joruus C'baoth. I'm guessing it's Joruus, Joruus.
Yeah.
What else could it be? But yeah, that actually makes sense. It would be an interesting character to bring in. Hopefully there's not a bunch of Luke clones.
Luke, L-U-U-K, which they, I guess they can.
And I think Joruus, his first name has two U's because he's also a clone as well. I mean, it's all stuff that was written before the Clone Wars were defined, what they
Heir to
actually
the Empire
were.
and all that.
Yeah.
That was
was
the first post Return of Jedi. It was the first.
Clones were, if I'm remembering correctly, the Clone Wars was kind of defined as like people were making copies and were, causing trouble because you didn't know who was real and who wasn't.
Yeah.
Cool. A cool concept.
Yeah.
What we got was different.
Mm-hmm.
So interesting for them to take their most popular non-official, non-movie or TV canon thing and find a way to bring elements in.
Well,
it would be smart.
They've been good about kind of taking the best elements from the extended unit or the Legends canon, as it were, and kind of bringing those in. And it's like enough. It's like it's like the Thrawn isn't a 1-to-1 with Heir to the Empire.
Yeah.
It's a different version of him, but it's close enough that we know who he is and how badass he is. I mean, I remember reading Heir to the Empire. I think it was middle school when those books dropped. Heir to the Empire, Dark Force Rising, and then
I think they dropped. I want to say like 90.
Yeah, they were like around the 90s.
Yeah.
I feel like 96 is too late, but
96 is too late because
that's
when
right. That's
Shadows
when
of the Empire.
Well, that was like Jedi Search and all that stuff was coming out too.
Oh yeah.
Jedi Apprentice, Jedi Academy and all that. KJ Anderson books, baby. Are you excited for Thrawn? I mean, we've seen him before in Rebels. Is this a big deal?
It is a big deal. Again, he's sort of been the sort of like everyone for years has said like if Disney knew what they were doing, this is a character they would bring over. And I think rightfully they didn't do it right away.
Yeah.
I think name dropping him in 2020, and then we also see the Magistrate from that episode in the trailer as well. I think them waiting to bring him in has been interesting. Introducing him again in comics and in novels, both in Clone Wars.
Because Zahn wrote the new Thrawn one, the guy who originally wrote the original.
He's written all of them, and Thrawn was, chilling with Anakin and then with Vader, and got to know them both a bit, and to the point where he figured out who Vader was.
Yeah. Smart dude.
Yeah, smart dude.
Smart dude, turns out.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's almost sad knowing that this takes place between now and what happens with the First Order, because it's like, again, we know it has to fall. We know he's got to go,
Yeah, but like when you were reading Heir to the Empire, did you think like right after Return of the Jedi they were going to be like, nope, Thrawn wins and the Empire's back and Luke's dead? Did you think that was going to happen?
No, but there's always a chance. There's always a chance. And that's the thing. It's like, it's like, yeah, we know ultimately the rebels have to win and all that. Mm-hmm. But also, like, there's a suspension of disbelief. It's like, like you can be like, maybe.
Yeah.
But maybe. This is like, no, we know. There's no hiding. Like, it's like, no, it's going to happen. Unless they get their ass kicked and they, like, go off. Like, okay, we're going to the outer rim.
Yeah.
And we'll see in 30 years.
I think the thing that is really rough for me is, like, Thrawn is literally the smartest, most tactical person they could fight. And I think the thread, the through the eye of the needle, though, the line they walked was very interesting of, like, here's the smartest guy that could kill them all, and he's going to be the bad guy in a kid's show.
Yeah.
He can't win, obviously, in the kids' show.
So
that was like a rough thing, and they still made him interesting, and still like were able to make those things, those wins feel hard earned, and didn't make him feel too diminished.
Yeah,
because that is the interesting thing of like this is supposed to be the guy that can stop us all, and yet we need to beat him as often. Anytime he shows up, we have to beat him.
Which is why, again, is why we liked Empire Strikes Back so much, because they lost, and you're like, oh shit. All right. Well, we hope you all enjoyed today's episode of Star Frak.
Yes, indeed.
Like I said, it's going to be interesting to see. I'm curious what the feedback will be. Post Picard, post Mando.
Mm-hmm.
If you guys are really interested in talking, even if it's just like Star, the Star pop culture, or whatever. If you guys are interested in that, let us know. Please, you can hit me up on Twitter at @TheBComp. You can hit up Steven
at Stevia, STEEEVIA.
Or just, send us a little chatting, to say, hey, I like your show. Do more.
Yeah.
Because
not a bad deal.
Until I have a job, I'm going to be doing this stuff.
See?
because I don't have any money coming in. But when I have a job that has money coming in, that's where, unless I can turn this into a money job.
Weekend stream.
Yeah, weekend stream. Very late night.
Very late night.
Star Wars After Dark.
Yeah, 12-hour shift, post 12-hour shift streams.
No, but in all seriousness, we really do appreciate everyone who tunes in and watches, and we appreciate.
Absolutely.
I really do mean that. I know that there's not like a lot, but it, feeds my ego.
For sure. I need it. Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie. My unemployment ran out. I'm depressed. There's no jobs out there.
Yeah.
And on that note, we will see you next week. We'll see you on Thursday with me and Peter will be vibing, and on Friday, Steve and I will be fracking. That sounded bad.
No, it works.
Okay,
It works. Let's keep it.
All right. Well, I'll see you all, guys. Have a good one. Thank you.
See you later.